What is up, guys? Another video. I'm very excited for this one. We are reviewing Star Wars The Black Series Boss. He is from my favorite Star Wars video game, Republic Commandos. You play as him specifically, but I'm very excited to open up this bad boy and show you. Here's the back of the box. I'm not going to read it for you, so you're more than welcome to pause the video. So let's get right into this bad boy. So before we take a deep dive into the boss figure and everything that's included, I wanted to integrate my lore segments that I have in my alien videos and go beyond that. I wanted to put them in my just other videos, and I figured that the review about a character from my favorite Star Wars video game is the good place to start expanding, because I'm very pumped and excited to do this video, and I really like exposing people to Republic Commando and the lore behind it. So I just figured this was a good stepping stone. But anyways, let's dig into the lore about our boy Boss. So our beautiful orange boy Boss, he was born on Commando just like every other clone in the Republic. His designated birth name is RC-1138, and he was the leader of a squad called Delta Squad that was completely made up of Republic Commandos, and his nickname is Boss because he is the leader of the squad, if you couldn't tell. The second commander of the squad was Fixer. His birth name was RC-1140. Then we have the Sniper Sev, who was RC-1207. And then the explosives expert Scorch, who was RC-1262. It wouldn't be until the year 2004 where we get to hear about our beautiful boy in the novel Republic Commando Hard Contact, and it would only be until a year later in 2005 where we get what I think is the best Star Wars video game of all time. Remember, this is my opinion, but anyways, in this game, Star Wars Republic Commando, you would get to play as Boss and lead your squad, and it was just a tactical shooter, a beautiful first-person Star Wars tactical shooter that I love to this day, and it's the one video game I can play over and over again and never get bored of it, at all. And unfortunately, when Disney bought Star Wars, Republic Commando was made Legends, and it wasn't until Season 3 of Star Wars The Clone Wars where the boys, Delta Squad, would make a cameo and be brought back to the canon. But it seems like that the game is still considered Legends because there is no confirmation, but there is also no denial about the game's place within the Star Wars universe. And the last time we've seen any member of Delta Squad was actually in Bad Batch, where we get to see Scorch training a bunch of TKs, or at least he was on his way to. But anyways, that is all the lore I'm going to give you. If any of this interests you, please get the game. I think it's dirt cheap because it's an old game. Go watch yourself some Star Wars. And now let's get into the figure. The thing that this video is about. So sliding Boss out of the box, just visuals, first impressions. He looks really good. I've been really waiting for this guy to show up at my door. I was so excited when he got announced. Obviously, I have a bias seeing that he is from my favorite Star Wars video game. And just holding the figure, not just testing out articulation, but just holding the figure, he still feels really good. His backpack, it's got the little T-shaped peg. You just pop that in the back just like that. Nothing too crazy. And let's take a deep dive into our boy. So when it comes to articulation for a beautiful orange boy, he can do a full 360 on the ball joint. The helmet and the chest piece do kind of clash, so when you want him to look up and down, it feels fairly limited, but nothing too serious in that area. The arm articulation feels really good. You can get his arm up a fair amount, and the shoulder piece moves with it, so it's not limiting the arm movement. Forearm elbow articulation is really good. You can get that forearm as much as it can before the armor starts clashing with itself. And then the wrist articulation is really good. You can get the bend for those poses and just holding different types of blasters. Torso articulation is also really solid. Some of the best torso articulation I've felt on a Star Wars The Black Series figure in a while. You can go back and forth, side to side. You can pretty much have his torso go almost anywhere as you want. Leg articulation is also really solid. Mind you, nothing has felt stiff yet with this figure. You can almost get him to do a complete split. Everything feels loose and fluid, which is really nice. Knee articulation, you can't get that butt kick, but you can get that knee past the halfway point, so you can get those running poses. And then feet articulation is not stiff at all. It's nice and sturdy. It's not too loose, so it's floppy. It's a ball joint, so it can go up and down all around. Just articulation overall feels really good on this figure. Very satisfied. So fun fact, this figure uses the same sculpt as the Hunter figure for everything except for the helmet, obviously. And because of that, on his arm, where Hunter would have his sheath for his knife, there is a peg hole on Boss's forearm. So I don't know if Disney forgot about that or if they're keeping it on purpose. I don't know, but there's a little peg hole on Boss's arm that is absolutely useless. So here is a look of Boss's DC-17M blaster. Just a faithful recreation from the game. Nothing too crazy when it comes to the paint job. Just a solid darkish gray color. The sculpting looks fine. And this time I did not forget to do the turntable segment for the accessories that come with the figure. I know I forgot to add that segment when I did the Umbaran Operative and Jet Trooper review. I apologize for that, but I did not this time, obviously, as we are doing it right now. But yeah, overall, it's a faithful recreation, sculpt and paint-wise. Nothing too crazy. Let's move on to a special version of this blaster that I do have, though. So here is a 3D printed DC-17M that I did get off of Etsy as part of a freebie. I was purchasing a custom pauldron for one of my stormtroopers, and the shopkeeper threw it in, and I appreciate that. Link in the description if you want to get some 3D printed Star Wars parts, because he does a bunch of custom blasters and stuff, and it's very cool, and I appreciate the freebie. And I did get this in our transparent red, so I did have to paint it myself to have it look more screen accurate. I just painted it black, so nothing too crazy. But you can see almost immediately a difference between this version and Hasbro's. The first one is size. This one is much bigger when comparing it to Hasbro's version. Like, you can fit two of these on top of this one. And then the detail, because this blaster is bigger than Hasbro's, the Etsy shopkeeper was able to get more detail on this blaster, making it look more screen accurate, which is very cool. And you will see later in the video the size differences while Boss holds the blasters. But I thought this was just a cool little neat thing I could share with you, because Etsy has a fairly large and committed Star Wars community that makes custom parts, and it's very awesome if you're into making customs or just adding accessories to existing figures. But yeah, let's go do the turntable thing now. And here we are at the turntable segment of the video, where you get a good look at the figure without me manhandling it, and I go over the things I like, dislike, and yeah. So one thing I do want to get out before I do the pros and cons, because I don't know if this is considered a pro or a con. I think it's just a statement of relief, in the sense of, I was really worried that because of his helmet and chest piece clashing and limiting the articulation in his head, I thought that it was going to look like he had no neck, but I can say with full confidence that that is not the case. He doesn't look like some weird armored turtle. So even though the chest and helmet do limit articulation in the head area, he doesn't look like a turtle, which is very good. So we're going to go over the cons first, because I've been praising this figure slash character the entire video so far, and I need to show you guys that I can be critical of things that I do like. So starting off with the feet, so I did praise the articulation in the foot area, that it can bend very easily and nothing feels like it's going to break off or be stiff, which is very true, and I still stand by that statement. But he is kind of hard to balance and pose, and you see in the first pose I do have him on the turntable in this like kind of idle pose, which that's fine. That was easy enough to balance him. But if you try doing like any other pose where both of his feet are on the ground, he just kind of becomes hard to balance. Like, you'll need a stand for him to not fall over. And even in that idle pose that I do have him in, it took two or three attempts at getting him to like stand and not like kind of bob and weave back and forth. it's just something that's kind of frustrating because, you know, this guy is supposed to be this really tactical character that, you know, maneuvers in all these ways, and he's kind of hard to balance on his feet. And my second and probably last complaint that I do have about this figure is this guy needs some kind of black wash, some kind of panel lining-esque like detailing done on the figure, because there are some places on his armor, like on his thighs, shoulders, and stuff, where there is obviously some form of battle damage, some worn, and I'm not talking about the paint coming off or like there being like dirt on them, but like there are just obvious like scratches made into the armor, and it's just like plain white. Like it just blends in seamlessly. You you really have to stare at the figure to see these like damages, these marks. And I appreciate like Hasbro adding in the battle damage and making it seem like his armor is worn. Like you can tell that some of the orange paint's chipping off, and there is some gray there's gray paint on the armor to show that his armor is not clean. That's very cool and all. It's just there are some markings, just damages that you don't see unless you like are eye fucking the figure and you're like, oh hey, look at that. It's I don't know, it's something minute. I just feel like adding a little more color to like the battle damage on the figure would have gone a long way, just in my opinion. So going into pros, I do have to say that this is a really solid figure. This figure is like an above average figure. Like Hasbro has to meet a certain criteria when it comes to making these figures, and I'm not saying Hasbro doesn't meet this criteria. They do a lot. They really just hit the main things they want to get out of the figure, and then they call it a day. It feels like with this figure they hit everything they wanted to hit, and then they just kept improving upon it. Like the articulation feels really good. Nothing's like too stiff. Nothing feels like it's about to break off. It's all nice and loose and fluent. The posability for this dude is awesome. Like you can get him in some cool tactical poses. Like when I finished recording for this video, I just kept playing with him because of his posability, and I was very pleased with how just well he did pose, even if I did need a stand for that. And then the paint job, it's accurate. I don't see any inaccuracies with the figure sculpting. The paint job just looks good. It's a solid Star Wars The Black Series figure, and I can't wait to see how when Fixer comes out, and if he's going to be another above average figure. He probably will be, because it's going to be the same sculpt. And I can't wait to see the rest of Delta Squad come to the Star Wars The Black Series like franchise. Like I'm really excited for that. So one thing that I almost forgot to show you guys was the 3D printed DC-17M in Boss's hands. And I do have to say, it looks really good in his hands. It being in scale, it looks a lot more imposing. You can see that it looks more powerful, and it looks overall very slick and solid in his hands. Unfortunately, this is the only one I have, and I already did dedicate this blaster to my Wrecker figure because he's a big boy, and just how small Hasbro's DC-17M, it just looks really funny in his hands, so I gave him a bigger one to just be in scale with his massive body. But me going off topic now, very happy with how it looks in Boss's hands, and I might have to go to the Etsy shop to get more of these blasters. So yeah, and if you couldn't tell already how much I love Republic Commando and Boss, here is a custom Boss helmet that I did get years ago. I got this at like a vendor from a con. I don't have no name, no link, so I do apologize, but shout out to that dude anyways for making this awesome piece. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. This is the end of the review. We're here. We are here, guys. So if you did enjoy, all I do ask is that you like and subscribe. If you think I'm worthy of it, I'm not gonna make a comment or press the bell. The bell is broken, and commenting takes way too much effort unless you do have something to say to me. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is probably the longest Star Wars The Black Series review I've done, because the lore segment was like around 3 minutes, which is a little long for a toy review, but I just needed to get all that out, and I really like this figure, so I did show it a lot more love One critique I do have about myself about this video was the poses during the turntable segment. I just rotated out the same 3 poses. I didn't think that my pros cons kind of turntable segment was going to take that long, so that is not my bad if it did get repetitive for you. But yeah, that's probably, I'm calling myself out now before anyone else does. But yeah, like I said, do all those things, like, comment, subscribe and like, comment if you want to. Bell's fucking broken. I'll see you guys in another one.